Universal Pictures, which was initially announced as the distributor of this film, hastened to cancel the rental after seeing the final result. Nevertheless, at the Cannes Film Festival, Substance caused such a storm of emotions among the audience that the audience applauded standing for almost 10 minutes. With the release of the film, the audience's reaction turned out to be no less contradictory. Some left the hall in the middle of the film, warning their friends that it was better to finish the popcorn immediately before the tin began. After seeing the appetite would definitely disappear, while others returned to the sessions again to relive this experience. So what was shown in the Substance that caused delight among some and disgust among others? Why is this film not only about women, but also directly affects men? What deep psychological mechanisms are behind the rejection of oneself and one's appearance? And finally, let's talk about the most sophisticated, painful practices in history, which have been used for centuries to force women to conform to the canons of beauty imposed by society. Substance tells the story of Elizabeth Sparkle, an actress who once won an Oscar and even her own star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame, after which her career gradually declined. At the beginning of the film, we see Elizabeth already in the role of the host of a popular fitness show.
Front, kick, kick. Oh yeah, you got it.
But here's the trouble. On her 50th birthday, she finds out that her producer Harvin is looking for a replacement.
We need her young. We need her hot. We need her now.
In his opinion, there should be a younger and sexier presenter on the screen.
Find me somebody new. Now.
Unwilling to disappear from the screens and be completely forgotten, Elizabeth seizes on a strange offer, the opportunity to become the best version of herself, with the help of an injection of a drug called Substance that promises to restore her lost youth.
One single injection unlocks your DNA, starting a new cellular division. Have you ever dreamt of a better version of yourself?
But the advertising slogan, "Become the best version of yourself," turns out to be by no means a metaphor. After the injection, a new version of Elizabeth really appears, and she's not just younger, she's physically perfect. But here's the problem. The old version doesn't disappear anywhere, and the new one physically lives off the original version. However, while one of them is awake, the other is lying unconscious on the cold bathroom floor, and every week they need to switch places. It is not difficult to guess that in this scenario, the conflict between them is guaranteed. The new variation of Elizabeth, who took the name Sue,
I'm Sue,
takes more and more time, and the imbalance leads to the fact that the real Elizabeth begins to show ugly mutation. In the end, in a fit of anger, Exude takes so much time for himself that the original turns into a monster. The conflict escalates so much that, trying to destroy each other, they give birth to an even uglier monster, which soon dies. In fact, I do not know if it is worth talking about the meaning of the film Substance, because the message of the film, I think, is clear to almost everyone, and certainly it is clear to any woman who discussed all this with her friends back in school. But still, let's go over the main point. The first and main thing that comes up in the film Substance is the unwavering adherence to beauty standards that are imposed on us from TV screens and social media pages. We are so used to this image that imitation of them has long been something mandatory. Men probably know how long it can take a woman to just pack up and leave the house. Makeup, hairstyle, careful choice of clothes. All this sometimes takes hours. And many women gradually become like two people. At the same time, one is a perfectly smiling Sue, flawless in appearance, and the other is the one who stays at home without makeup, embarrassed to show her true face to the world. At the same time, many people really have problems with not accepting themselves and know firsthand about the very feeling of wanting to rip off their face. But if only that was the end of it. After all, many people go on to plastic surgery, litters of Botox, endless cosmetic improvements and facelifts, striving to become the perfect Sue. To be honest, I sometimes get the feeling that these modified women are really holding a real version of themselves hostage somewhere in the closet. But this is only if the modification was successful. But we all know what such transformations can sometimes lead to. An unsuccessful operation can really disfigure a person. At the same time, at the beginning of the story, Elizabeth looks absolutely normal for her age. All she needs is to learn to accept herself. This conflict is clearly visible when she is going on a date with her former classmate. He is elated that she has agreed to meet.
Sorry, I'm in shock.
Oh.
Wow.
But she cannot accept herself and ends up staying at home. It is also symbolic of the scene at the beginning of the film when Elizabeth gets into an accident after looking at her own image on the advertising banner, which is being removed at that moment, instead of calmly letting go of her youth and appreciating her own life as it is. Elizabeth is fixated on losing her appearance, which leads to disaster. If we talk about the psychological reasons for not accepting oneself and one's own appearance, then it is usually rooted in the early experience of a relationship, especially in how parents treated a child in childhood. From an early age, children form an idea of their worth and attractiveness based primarily on the opinion of their parents. When parents criticize a child's appearance, even if with good intentions, for example, to motivate him, this can permanently consolidate the feeling of dissatisfaction with himself. Constant comparison with others, even in a mild form, forms an inner voice that requires compliance with certain standards. When such an experience is repeated many times, the child grows up with the feeling that he is not good enough. Later, this may manifest itself in an effort to correct your appearance, trying to finally get approval, which was so lacking in childhood. But if you think that all this applies only to women and that substance is a kind of feminist message, then this is not the case. A man also appears in the film.
It's long, isn't it? 7 days.
The old man who meets Elizabeth in the cafe in his younger version, embodying the same aspirations to preserve youth and attractiveness at all costs.
You're a good candidate. I mean, you're good to go. I wish you the best.
The world of show business and the high demand for perfect faces also applies to men, especially those who live under the gaze of cameras. Many actors, stars, and celebrities also resort to plastic surgery trying to preserve their image. In addition to plastic surgery, men have another way to fit their bodies to the standard, for example, steroids. The world of professional sports and the bodybuilding industry have long been known for their cult of a muscular, hypertrophied body. But what sacrifices are behind this? Steroids, stimulants, growth hormones, all this, like plastic surgery, give a quick effect, turning the body into an ideal. But men have to pay for this imaginary beauty with their health. Hormonal disorders, problems with joints, heart, blood vessels, liver, and psychological problems. And how can you not remember the character from Fight Club? Bob, a former bodybuilder who resorted to steroids and hormones for the sake of an ideal body? But in the end, he faced severe consequences, turning into a broken man, distorted by the reflection of his past ambitions. Therefore, the main message of the film is the desire of a person, under the influence of the bright colors of the artificial world of television, Instagram, and Snapchat filters, to separate his true self and image, adapting to imposed standards.
That's what we want tonight! Pretty girls should always smile!
Substance, in its quest to show the dark side of the pursuit of beauty, exposes not only Elizabeth's personal tragedies, but also a universal theme. How society has imposed standards for centuries that have sometimes crippled and disfigured. Current cosmetic procedures, plastic surgery, and injections are just a modern reflection of these traditions. But history knows many examples when women went to extremes for the sake of beauty, and what was considered ideal from today's point of view looks like real barbarism. Take, for example, the Padang women of Southeast Asia who wear metal rings to visually lengthen their neck. Dozens of rings wrapping around it just make it visually longer. They change the structure of the spine and body. The elongated neck symbolizes a woman's beauty and status, and the more rings there are, the higher the rating of her attractiveness. Another striking example is the so-called Chinese lotus feet, which resemble a lotus. Feet, which have been considered a symbol of sophistication and femininity in China for centuries, therefore, from early childhood, girls began to have their feet bandaged. The procedure was painful and usually resulted in fractures of the fingers. All this is in order to give the feet the right shape and achieve an imaginary ideal. When we look at these ancient customs, it all seems to us something barbaric, strange, and even scary. But if you think about it, is all this so different from what many women do to themselves? Today, only now have these rituals and traditions been replaced by technology and modern medicine. We no longer stretch our necks or break our legs, but turn to plastic surgeons for perfect noses, perfect cheekbones, and lips that meet today's beauty standards. This movie is definitely not for everyone. Many people did not like the ending of the film, which was too surreal and far from reality. But listen, weren't you confused by the appearance of one person from another while maintaining mass and volume? Even at the beginning of the movie. Why is the ending suddenly confusing now? This is not science fiction, but rather an art house dressed up in scattered scenes. But more importantly, this is not a movie that you will immediately forget after watching. It's a thought-provoking movie. Most likely, after watching it, you will have to think about what you saw for a long time. So if you like films that go against the usual framework and speak about the modern world in a language that makes you feel uncomfortable, Substance is definitely for you.